Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to today's Sangha Live morning meditation. We're very lucky to still have Kaira Lingo with us this week, leading the meditation. So welcome again, Kaira. Thank you for joining us again today. And lovely to see where you're all logging on from, as usual. People from all around Europe. So welcome to you all. And thanks for joining us again this morning. We're going to be here for an hour, so we'll be starting with 10 or 15 minutes of Dharma reflection, and then we'll be having a half-hour sit, and then at the end we will go into a short period of questions and answers. So that's your opportunity to ask any burning questions you might have about your practice, about what's been talked about this morning, about your experience during meditation. And if you'd like to do that, please feel free to put a question in the Ask a Question box right underneath the video screen. If you click on that, you'll see a pop-up box with an orange button, and you can type your question in there. The other way you can ask a question is by coming live on screen. As I mentioned yesterday, we've been having a few tech issues, more with Cavalli sessions, which are in the afternoon UK time, but I know it's been a little bit hit and miss about whether people are able to come on or not. But if you would like to come on, we can certainly try. So just type a message in the sidebar where you're all saying hello, and I can bring you on and you can have a bit more of a conversation with Kaira. The other thing to mention just before we start is Dana. So we rely on your donations to keep bringing this to you every morning. We really want to keep doing this. We know how much everybody is enjoying it. We're enjoying it as well. But we do have ongoing costs that we need to meet. And we rely on your contributions to meet those costs. So we'd be really, really appreciative if you could donate anything, if you're able to. It's gratefully received, whether it's a small amount or a large amount. And it's easy to donate. You just click on the green offer donation button right under the screen, and select the way you'd like to give. So thank you in advance for your generosity. It's much appreciated. Oh, and just to mention as well, because I haven't mentioned this week, just to clarify, I know some of you are interested, that the donations you give during the week are split 50-50 between us and Kaira, so that your donations also go to towards supporting Kaira and her living costs. So I'm going to take myself off and enjoy the session, everybody.
Thank you, Caroline. So welcome, everyone. It's good to be with you again. Today we're going to explore how love can be a kind of renunciation, letting go or releasing that we can offer space and acceptance as a way of showing our love. So one way we can do this is to release our ideas and notions, expectations of others. True love, it's said, is offering others space to be who they are and not demanding that they be what we need them to be. So really deeply loving someone is the ability, not just the intention, but also the ability to offer them space. And that requires some letting go of what we would wish for. So when I was a nun living in our community in Germany, there was a sister that I was friends with, but we also had our difficulties. In fact, she was someone that was quite difficult for me at times, even though there was a lot of love between us. And I often had, complaints in my mind about her. I guess this is part of a lot of our relationships with people we're close to. They can really irritate certain aspects of us. So one morning, this sister came late to breakfast, and I noticed this rant, a familiar rant in my head of like, oh, she's late again, and this irritation. But for some reason on that morning, my mindfulness was curious about that, and I was like, well, wait a minute, how would you have felt if she were on time for breakfast? And right away, I knew I would have found something else to complain about in her. And that was a very kind of confronting moment to just notice that, there was like an engine in me that just created complaints about her. Even if she would do this thing right, I would find something else that she was doing wrong. And, seeing the ways that I had all these demands and expectations on her was very revealing. And it was at that point, like, it was with me working on my expectations of her rather than wishing for her to change and meet my expectations. As I shifted and began to appreciate her more and more, give love more unconditionally, our relationship really softened, and the conflicts that were quite common between us really got better. And it really had to do with me accepting her more as she was and not demanding that she be something else. And now she's one of the people I really stay in touch with from my life as a nun. We have a very deep and loving connection since many years. So that's one practice we're going to do today in our meditation is what does it mean to offer love, loving kindness, friendship to others in the sense of releasing our expectations, our projections onto them. Then there's also the way we can let go of our expectations and demands on ourselves. So, if we really love ourselves, we want to offer ourselves the utmost freedom, the utmost space to be who we are, not needing to confine ourselves and say, well, I have to live up to these expectations and this and this and this to be okay. In the question and answer we had yesterday, I spoke about this a bit, about how much I suffered when I had this notion of my progress on my spiritual path, and this expectation that I should be able to do things perfectly. And letting that go was a huge act of love for myself, of not lowering my standards, but of giving myself space to really access something deeper, a deeper truth than, I needed to be perfect in order to be worthy and of love and acceptable. Another time that I was able to let go of expectations of myself was a time that I fell in love with a monk. And, we kept our precepts. We didn't break our vows, but we were in love, and I was certainly in love. And I remember being deeply troubled by this, that I just felt I judged myself so harshly. I was already somewhat, I'd been a nun for maybe 7 years by then or so. And I was sort of an elder sister to a number of younger brothers and sisters, and I just felt so bad for being a poor example of a nun. And I had so many judgments and shame and blame that I wasn't, this shouldn't have happened. Something was wrong with me. And we had a wonderful friend that was a monk in a Christian tradition who used to come and practice with us. Really kind, gentle elder brother to a lot of us. And I remember sharing with him this difficulty with many tears and, feeling so bad about myself. And he shared, if, it's precisely your having this experience that allows you to be a good older sister. It's not that you're a bad sister to your other monks and nuns, but it's in learning to accept yourself and to be, it is such a natural thing. He said, it's so natural to fall in love. It's so human. It means you're alive. And he said to be able to hold that with acceptance, with kindness, able to be compassionate with your brothers and sisters when they fall in love, because that will happen too. And and that was such a relief to begin to to lift this expectation off of me that I should be perfect, and to forgive myself, and to experience a lot more freedom to move through that experience, which I did move through. It healed, and we were able to continue on our paths. Me for about 7 more years, quite happily as a nun, and he also. So when we let go of these notions, these expectations, demands on ourselves, life becomes so much sweeter. And it doesn't mean that anything goes and that we can act irresponsibly, but it really means, we face life as it is. We are realistic about what's here, and how we can really honor the wisdom of what our experience has to bring us. And then a third place where we can practice this renunciation of expectations is of life itself, of how things are supposed to be in our communities, in our families, in our world. That, we may operate under the expectation that pandemics are not supposed to happen, even though it does happen, right? We know that there have been pandemics throughout human history. But we might have a demand, an expectation on life that things should continue in a normal way. Things should not get disrupted. There should not be upheaval on a global level. We shouldn't have an interruption of our comforts. But just as, people that we love don't conform to these expectations, just as we don't conform to our own expectations of ourselves, life also does not obey these demands. So we can have so much joy and so much freedom when we let go. And Thich Nhat Hanh, my teacher, speaks about the joy that's born from letting go. And that, the things that we think will bring us happiness are often the obstacles to our happiness. That the things we run after and think will guarantee something for us can really be the things that get in the way, that block us. So this is from Thich Nhat Hanh's book, The Heart of the Buddha's Teaching. He says, letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. If in our heart we still cling to anything, anger, anxiety, or possessions, we cannot be free. So, a very, fruitful question that we can hold in our minds is, what conditions for happiness am I holding on to that I might let go of, that might actually be the obstacle to my happiness? And maybe also, what is this virus teaching us about what we need to let go of? What ideas of happiness are actually getting in the way of our happiness? So let's try this out now as a practice. And this practice that I'll share with you is one that I learned from a Dharma teacher in Quebec, Pascal Auclair, a wonderful friend and teacher. And I'll put the link in the chat later so you can listen to him leading this if you want also. So coming into here we are, coming into a position of stability and freedom. A posture that supports you in ease and also presence. And connecting with your body. Feeling your body in space. Noticing the space that your body is occupying. And really claiming that you belong here, right in this moment. Really letting yourself take this space. So, are you able to hear me now? Checking that you can hear me. Great. Thank you. So, feeling these of contact between your body and what you're connected to, and really allowing your body to rest into these places of contact. Opening to what's here, to what's now, as you allow the body to settle, and inviting the mind to also rest in the body as the body rests on the earth. So now I invite you to bring someone to mind that you feel close to, that is someone connected to you in an important way. And let this person come into your awareness. See them, get a sense of their energy. It can be anyone. It could also be an animal that you live with or that you're close to. And now we'll just consider for a short time what it would be like if, as an act of love, you renounced your expectations of them. You released your demands of how they should be, of how they should live, how they should do things, how they should interact with you. What would happen if you let go of these expectations? This box that you might put them in. This isn't something you have to do forever, but just right in this moment, you could check it out, just temporarily, how that would be. A letting go of some wish that you have that they should fulfill. But as an act of love, offering them immense space, complete freedom to be just the way they are, to live their life the way it's to unfold, not according to your desires. Really accepting them in all of their beauty and all of their challenging aspects. And just feel what that brings into your body as you just consider this. What would it be like to renounce in this way? To open the doors, the windows of your ideas, of your expectations. To even take down the walls and let the roof open up. To not enclose in any way. And now we consider what it would be like for this person that we feel close to treat us in the same way, to look to us with this similar renunciation. How would it feel if this person's expectations, judgments, opinions about us were completely released and we could be just as we are, held in a spacious acceptance that was full of understanding for all of who we are. No limitations on who we should be, how we should be. No constriction. You let yourself feel into that possibility of someone else letting go of demands on you, of expectations, of judgments. How might that be to live free from those things as an act of love from this person to you? Again, even if this is just a short moment in time right now, it doesn't have to be, not asking you to try to make it always this way, but right now, how would that be? And experience that in your body. Notice what's here in your body as you open to this as a possibility. Being held in great, vast, immense spaciousness. Not aloofness, not indifference. The person is still very much loving you, still very attuned to you and attentive to you, but without all these demands. Just breathe that in. Get a real visceral sense of that. Being allowed total freedom. And now we'll offer the same sense of renunciation towards ourselves. And we'll begin with our past. So, what would it mean now for you to look at your past and renounce all judgments, all expectations and demands of how things should have been in your past, how you should have been, and really release and let those go completely. To relate to your past with 100% accepting just as it was. You don't have to do this for a long time. Just check it out to see what it's like right now. To release your past, to release you in the past from opinions, expectations, any blame, any judgment. Holding yourself in this very generous, spacious love as renunciation. This wholehearted yes to whoever you were in the past, whatever you did, to however you lived. What would that be like? How does that feel in your body as you allow for this possibility? Just breathe with this. Releasing you in the past from any notions or ideas of how you should have been. A very calm, grandmotherly love that can smile to all that you've lived through without any resistance to how it was. It can embrace you in all the different stages of your past. It can embrace you with unconditional love. Now we'll turn the same renunciation to our future. So, considering what it might mean in this moment to renounce whatever expectations or demands you might have about your future. That it should be like this, that you should be like that things should unfold in this or that way. Just really letting go, just in this moment, of whatever demands, whatever requirements, expectations you might have about yourself in the future. It's like putting down heavy bags. Just feel yourself putting those heavy bags down. What would that feel like? What would that be like? Just opening with spaciousness, with great freedom to whatever might come. No sense of a scale that measures, well, this is good, this is bad. I want this, I don't want that. What would it be like to look at your future without that sense of measuring and judging and weighing what's okay, what's not okay? To offer complete, unconditional acceptance to yourself in the future. Renouncing any judgment, any opinion. Opening with complete freedom to whatever might come. Just let yourself feel that in your body. What might it be like? How would it be? All those layers just lifting off. Wishless. You can always take up those expectations again later. So this isn't forever. Just consider what it might be like now. And as you sit here now in the present moment, what would it mean to renounce your expectations and opinions and judgments of yourself here and now? That you should meditate in a certain way, that you should be a certain way with others, or that you should think certain thoughts, or that your body should be a certain way, that your mind and your feelings should be a certain way. Right here, right now, what would it mean to renounce those limiting beliefs about yourself? Those ways that you constrict yourself and imprison yourself with judgments, maybe not even your own judgments, maybe voices from internalized voices from teachers and friends and family of how we should be, of what's wrong with us, how we could be better. What would it mean to really release all of those? To offer ourselves complete space and freedom right in this moment to be just as we are. As a deep act of love for ourselves. Just feel that in your body. Feel it as you breathe. How would that be? How is it right now? And now, finally, we turn towards life, all of life. And just for a moment, consider how it would be to renounce your expectations, your demands about how life should be, as an act of love, to release, to let go of the expectations and opinions about how the world should be like, how people should be with other people, how your own life should unfold within the larger picture, this larger web of life. What would it be like to cast off these demands that we place on life, to make us happy in whatever particular way we want to be happy? To stay in the sunshine and not bring us into the shadow. To really renounce, to remove these expectations and requirements on life. And really breathe with this, open to this possibility. Of letting go of all the demands, the expectations that we have of life, to be whatever particular way we think it should be. Predictable, permanent, perfect. Releasing, releasing, releasing. How does that feel in your body as you just open to this possibility of renouncing expectations on life? Really feel this in your body, how it feels, what qualities it has, this acceptance, this letting go. Wonderful practice. So I invite you to take some deep breaths to transition back. Slowly opening the eyes if they were closed. Reorienting to the space around you. Inviting whatever stretch might feel good. And here we are back together, and you're welcome to share any questions in the question area. And for those who might have missed Caroline's introduction, there is a Dana button underneath the video. You're invited to offer whatever you might be able to. I'm appreciating what you all are sharing in the chat, but you didn't really want to come back from the meditation. You know, I'm glad it was good. It was very powerful. Thank you. Hugh writes, unencumbered, unafraid, and free. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for a very touching experience. Very powerful meditation. And that was a tough one. Yeah, so that's real too. It can be a challenging place to go. So I'm going to ask Caroline to write in the chat a little update on Martin. Caroline shared a little bit at the beginning, but maybe you could write that also for those who missed it and are wanting to know how Martin is. Joe says, thank you, particularly relevant and useful. Philippa, I cried with all the demands I have on myself and others, and the freedom I felt leaving these. Wonderful. Claire, wow, Cecile, sorry. I felt my body release some very ancient tensions. Thank you so much. Thank you. Difficult, but the way to go. Yeah. For me, it's difficult to let go of the future and all the projects, for sure. Yeah. There was a strange feeling of freedom, imagining releasing all expectations on how life should be, really free. So Caroline's saying there's no further news on Martin. The latest we know is that he's weak but stable. He sends his love to everyone who's expressing their concern for him. Mai says, difficult. This meditation is difficult, brings up anger and need to explain my side, a usual response. Thank you for sharing. Consuelo, beautiful and teaching, and on the future, my backache got away. Thank you, healer. That's wonderful to hear. What a liberating notion. Freedom equals love. Thank you so much. It was good to imagine releasing those burdens, and I had a sense of freedom. Beautiful and challenging to practice. I will try to incorporate this into my life. Thank you all for sharing. So we have a question from Laura. It felt for me that renouncing was similar to not caring. I understand intellectually that it is not that, but I almost felt abandonment in the freedom. I found peace later on, but the initial stage of each part, thank you for sharing your experience, Laura. I would imagine it's a very common thing. I know I myself can struggle when I'm first asked or invited or required to let go, because there's a comfort in our ideas and how we see things. But there's a beautiful image of a ladder that in order to get to the next rung of the ladder, you have to let go of this rung. that you're on. And that can be uncomfortable. There's that gap between one rung and the next that can be scary. So it is difficult. And then it's beautiful that you also found peace after some time, as you allowed yourself to feel into that. But this, this practice goes against a lot of what we've been trained. Our sense of self tells us to hold on to things because that's what makes us a self. And our society, our family, our world tells us you have to hold on to these things in order to, stay safe and to be protected and to be who you are. So there's many currents pushing us away from letting go of these ideas. So it makes total sense that would be challenging. And so wonderful that you were able to stay with it and move into it more deeply. But it is a kind of abandoning. It's not abandonment. It's not like rejecting, but it's abandoning that security. And that's really scary because we really value that sense of security. One other thing I'll just say is that Alan Watts wrote a book called The Wisdom of Insecurity, or maybe The Wisdom of Uncertainty, I can't remember. But I didn't read it myself, but that title has often stayed with me. When I was transitioning out of my life as a nun after 15 years and into lay life, that was such a time of insecurity. I had no idea what I wasn't leaving to do anything in particular. I had no person I was going to have a relationship with. I had no job. I had no place I knew I was going to go. It was completely like stepping into nothingness. And this teacher, lovely teacher, Joseph Goldstein at Insight Meditation Society, was mentioning that book and saying, in the realm of what's unformed, of what, when you don't know what's going to happen, there's so much more possibility there than if you do know what the next step is. But if you're open, if you're there, there's all this uncertainty and insecurity, then there's amazing possibility too. So going on those long retreats, I did the 3-month retreats several years in a row, really helped me not to necessarily figure out what I should do, but to get more and more comfortable with the not knowing. So it is a place that can be very fruitful, but it is abandoning what we do know, what is comfortable and safe. This is a question from Christiana. And what if having no expectations brings us immobilization? Thank you for that question. I think I relate to your question in the sense of immobilization, meaning we have no goals, we have no ambition, we have nothing to, we have no momentum that pulls us towards something that we want. So I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question, but that's how I make sense of it. And for me, it's about trusting, like the letting go of the expectations is inviting in not what our will is, that statement from the Bible, my will, but your will, speaking of God, right? So that letting go, it's not about that we don't care and that we don't want to keep growing, that we don't have things we would really like to do, but it's about trusting that sometimes what life brings to us is way better than what we could have thought of for our future or for that project. I've often experienced this guiding groups where someone will say something and it's a powerful statement and I think, oh, we should respond, or this is the next thing that should happen in this group. Like, I think I have to do something as the facilitator. And I've found over and over again, if I don't say something, if it's a question to me or, if I know I should really respond, I respond. But if it's more like a questioning, like what should I do? How should I? And it's me focusing on me, what I should do in this facilitator role. When I can let that go and just relax, inevitably someone in the group says just the perfect thing in response to what that other person said, way better than what I could say. They tell a personal story or they relate it to something. And it's this beautiful process of, it's not that I don't care or that I don't, it's not that I'm immobilized, but I'm listening. I'm open to what could come that could be way deeper than what I might think up, trying to take care of the situation. So I think for me, I would just come to the word trust in what you're asking. Thank you for the question, Christiana. So Stephanie writes, I found it much easier to do this practice thinking of someone else. I felt I couldn't forgive myself or hold kindly some things I did in the past. I still feel a lot of judgment and regret about some choices I made in my past. Can you say anything about how to find a way to let go, move toward this? Thank you so much. Thank you, Stephanie. Yes. So, sometimes we can be our harshest judges. And the Buddha did say that too. Like the worst enemy is ourselves, is our own minds, the way we kind of just, we can really be hard on ourselves and find it difficult to accept our mistakes and forgive ourselves for those things. So the first thing I would say is we want to be kind to that inability to forgive ourselves. Like we don't want to judge that part of ourselves, because that's a very human and natural internalization of, the way the world is, where there's a lot of blame, there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of inability to forgive that we may have absorbed from around us. And so that gets internalized as I'm not okay, making mistakes is not okay. And for me, what's really helpful to release that is to notice how we are a stream. We are not a separate entity. We are made up of the waters of our ancestors that flow into us, and we flow into those that come after us. So there's a lot of things that came into us that we didn't get to choose. There's habit energies that those who raised us had. There's a society that nourished certain elements in us. And so if we're harsh on ourselves, we have to see that that's not something, we learned on our own. That was something we got taught, to be harsh on ourselves. So to be really compassionate with that harshness, that's something that, we imbibed, by osmosis from our world, from our communities, from our families, from our friends, from the media. And so we're not to blame. It doesn't mean we don't have some say over how we continue to live our lives. And it's not that we don't have any responsibility for healing that part of ourselves, but we're not to blame. So, all those things, whatever the things are that you regret or that you find difficult accepting in the past, how to see them as a manifestation of, this stream that was flowing into you, unskillful actions that, you didn't always, habits that might have formed in you very young that you didn't get to choose. And if your parents or whoever took care of you passed those habits on, where did they get their habits from? They also didn't necessarily choose. They might have been, that's, intergenerational suffering that can get passed on. So being really kind to ourselves for those things we didn't get to choose. Thank you for that question, Stephanie. And Laura says, I think I'll take one more question. Laura says, it felt to me that renouncing was similar to not caring. We did this one. Okay. And then Rosalind, I hadn't realized how deeply I'm holding to a sense of shame and guilt about acts in my past. And I don't think I deserve to be free. How can I work with this? Thank you, Rosalind. Very important question. That's another belief that we can impose on ourselves, that I did these things, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve to be accepted and loved. And that is, that's just one part of the story, and we can definitely, that can definitely be a very loud voice. But if we can, go into nature. I don't know if you have nature accessible to you, or even, being somewhere where there's the sun, or where there's the rain, or where there's clouds. These things don't judge us. The sun shines on everyone, no discrimination. The rain, it falls on everyone with no discrimination. The clouds, they provide some kind of cover and shade for everyone without discrimination. So just letting yourself feel into the way nature loves you just as you are. Nature doesn't have this expectation that you should be X, Y, and Z in order to be lovable. If you have a pet, your pet doesn't judge you for your past. From what I know of pets, at least, I don't think they do that. And then just trusting that there is Buddha nature in you. There is something in you that is beyond that experience of being unworthy, that loves you deeply just as you are. And that you can feel into that, grow into that sense of that is a presence in you that you can learn to trust more and more. Every time you practice mindfulness, every time you bring your attention into the present moment, you're increasing that energy of the Buddha in you, of vast, immense, unconditional acceptance and love. So a meditation that I sometimes do and I find really beautiful is if you visualize in your mind a big Buddha statue, or a big statue of the Bodhisattva of compassion, Avalokiteshvara, or maybe Mother Mary, or Jesus Christ, or Muhammad, I don't know, whatever, wonderful spiritual figure inspires you. But the Buddha is easy because he's usually in a position sitting. Then you picture yourself climbing into his lap. And he's just holding you, and you can just rest and be embraced by this loving, completely unconditional Buddha energy, which is really the Buddha in you. But sometimes it can be helpful to visualize it as outside of us, and just let yourself be held like a child. So if that helps to release that sense of not being worthy, there is in each of us something that holds us so dear, and nothing that we've done can take us out of that web that we're held in. Nothing that we've done can reject us from this net that holds each of us. And we can touch that inside of us. So, thank you all so much. It's really a joy to be together. I will look forward to joining you again tomorrow. And I'm wishing you much fruit from this practice of love as renunciation. Oh, and I do just want to put in the chat, but we'll also put in, there's a recording of each of these available on the website, but I'll just put these two links from Pascal Auclair. You can listen to it. He came up with this, as far as I know. So both of those links, one in French, one in English, of this 30-minute meditation from him. So deep gratitude to it, Pascal. Thank you for your wonderful questions and your beautiful practice. And take good care.